Tracking record heat here across the state with the sunshine continuing into tomorrow. Coming up, how long this heat wave will last, plus a look at your air quality and UV index.
Fishermen have noticed a big drop in water levels in a short amount of time. Coming up, how it's affecting wildlife.
Search and rescue volunteers are part of a group to recover a fallen hiker in American Fork Canyon. Just one of many incidents that SAR volunteers responded to this weekend.
Salt Lake police make a second arrest in a deadly shooting outside a sneaker convention where thousands of people attended this weekend. We have the breaking details on what police are revealing about the accused gunman.
I didn't ever think this run would be as emotional as it is, but when you get people together that share trauma, that have shared the loss, they heal together.
And from addicts to athletes, why this 5K run in Spanish Fork meant so much.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
We continue to shatter temperature records for extreme heat in Utah. We saw more record highs in Salt Lake City today. So the question is, when will it let up? Let's get right to Utah's Weather Authority, Allison Krogan. Allison.
Yes, 104 was our high here in Salt Lake today. Not only a daily record high, an all-time temperature high for the month of September, our hottest Labor Day ever, and also our 32nd time this year in the triple digits. Earlier this year, we beat the record, which was set last year at 21 days. And so today we continue to add to that record. And so here across the state, currently it's still pretty hot out there. It's 90 in Salt Lake City, just about 82 for Provo, 99 currently in St. George. And our heat advisories for the Wasatch Front continue through the middle of the week through Wednesday at 8 p.m., even into our heat advisories for southern Utah. Heat warnings for Lake Powell and Washington County, those continue as well through Wednesday at 8 p.m. We look at our hour-by-hour forecast, 10 o'clock tonight into the overnight hours, eventually dropping into the 60s and 70s for your Tuesday morning, into the 50s up in the mountains. So cool for some parts, but many of us have a pretty mild start for tomorrow morning. Coming up, I'll let you know when we could see a cool down.
Allison, thanks so much. We're hearing of more school districts taking action to keep students safe from the dangerously hot weather. The Box Elder and Weber County school districts will have early out times tomorrow and Wednesday because of the heat. And the Ogden School District sent a message to parents today that they're going to bring in portable cooling units. They'll also allow students extra water breaks and limit outside recess in the afternoons. As people try to get away from the hot temperatures by heading to the mountains, there were several unfortunate incidents that took lives. Fox 13 News anchor Brian Schnee looks at what search and rescue crews dealt with and what they recommend before you hit the trail.
On a weekend like this, we expect to have more calls than we would typically have on a regular weekend. Especially Labor Day weekend, it's the last big hoorah for the summer and people getting out and enjoying themselves, and we encourage that.
With more people out, Utah County search and rescue crews ended up with a busy weekend. A few calls for hikers who needed assistance in some tough-to-reach spots. One of those call-outs involved the 45-year-old man who had been climbing.
Sent him a picture of where he was, and it showed the fee booth at the mouth of American Fork Canyon. He said, "Can you pick me up there in about 45 minutes? I'm on my way down." His phone was at only 1% battery, and so the friend wasn't surprised to not be able to reach him or not to hear from him.
But when time passed and the man didn't show up, the friend called for help.
We did some looking for a couple of hours, but the terrain where his friend was very, very difficult, very dangerous terrain.
So they called off the search Saturday night. They resumed Sunday morning with the help of the Utah Department of Public Safety Aero Bureau.
When they got on scene, it wasn't very long before they were able to get to the area, and they located what they believed to be this gentleman's body.
There is some beautiful but unforgiving terrain in American Fork Canyon. Just last year in March, search and rescue volunteers also needed the aid of a helicopter to recover a body from the mouth of the canyon.
Because of the terrain, I mean, we're not talking, what most of us would consider moderately steep, but it was near vertical, and the body had come several hundred feet down the mountain from where it fell.
Physically and mentally taxing callouts stretched beyond Utah County this holiday weekend. Salt Lake County search and rescue volunteers had at least 3 calls on Monday, including a hiker who died from a fall in Neffs Canyon. And in southern Utah, Washington County SAR members responded to a deadly ATV crash late Friday night. As always, some of the more mild callouts for search and rescue crews are preventable in the first place. It's recommended to take extra water with you during this heat wave. Always tell others where you're going, avoid hiking or climbing alone, and be prepared for your adventure with the appropriate equipment.
There's so much to do up there, and it is so close and so easy to get to that these kinds of things are going to happen. We try to encourage people to be careful, but I don't know that it'll ever stop.
In Utah County, Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We have an update to a story that was breaking news over the weekend. Salt Lake police have arrested a second suspect now in connection with a homicide outside a sneaker convention at the Salt Palace on Saturday. This second suspect has been identified as 21-year-old Joshua Riak. He and 22-year-old Dang Book are alleged to have aided and abetted 18-year-old Nunu Koog in the shooting death of 41-year-old Delaford Knight. Here are 2 photos of the alleged gunman, Nunu Koog. Detectives say Knight and his friends flew to Salt Lake from Florida to defraud people in a card game scam. Police say one of the suspects got angry after losing money in the scam and tried to assault Knight to get the money back. It was then that police say Koog fatally shot Knight. He is at large tonight. If you know where he is, call 911 immediately. In Utah County, a suspect is in custody tonight after 2 people were shot last night at an event near Utah Lake. It happened at an arena on Lincoln Beach Road during a Mexican rodeo that attracted 2,000 to 3,000 people. The Utah County Sheriff's Office says one person is in critical condition, the other is in fair condition.
This event did not have a permit. We did go out and speak to them earlier yesterday afternoon, and they told us, it was just a birthday party for family. And we understand if family groups can get large, but they don't get into the several thousands of people as this one did.
Cesar Matias Sevilla Aleman was arrested. The sheriff's office says he's wanted in Colorado too. The motive for the shooting is still unclear. A young Utah County man is fighting for his life tonight after a horrific accident left him hospitalized and requiring brain surgery. 20-year-old Wesley Hadfield was riding his electric longboard along the Murdoch Canal Trail on August 28th when he crashed and suffered critical injuries. He's being medically sedated to help prevent his brain from swelling. If you'd like to help Wesley's family as they begin to pay any medical bills and future expenses, we have a link to a GoFundMe page for him on our website, fox13now.com. Runners in Spanish Fork took part in the annual Addict to Athlete Run today to raise awareness of mental illness and addiction. Participants can run in memory of a loved one who has died from mental illness or addiction. Organizers say everyone who participates shares some trauma or loss with each other, which helps them heal together.
For the family members who've lost a loved one to addiction or mental health, it shows them that they can talk about it, that there are people that can share that trauma. And through that trauma, that healing process, the growth happens and that family gets bigger.
Robinson says although participants may have lost a loved one, they gain a teammate. Today's race took place in correlation with National Recovery Month. Coming up, new developments tonight in a search for a mass stabbing suspect in Canada, what authorities are revealing. Plus, it's being called a legal win for former President Donald Trump, what a federal judge agreed to today regarding the seizure of documents last month.
Dead fish are washing up at Lost Creek Reservoir. What the Division of Wildlife Resources has to say about this problem.
In world news, there has been a major development in yesterday's mass stabbing in central Canada that killed at least 10 people and injured 18 others. Canadian authorities say one of the 2 suspects has been found dead. as the community continues to be on high alert following the violent attacks. Fox's Steve Rappaport gets us up to speed.
Canadian authorities on Monday locating at least one suspect wanted in one of the deadliest attacks in the country's history after 31-year-old Damian Sanderson was found dead in a wooded area near where investigators were searching.
We can confirm he has visible injuries. These injuries are not believed to be self-inflicted at this point.
His brother, Miles Sanderson, is still at large. He's now facing 3 counts of first-degree murder. The two are believed to be behind a spree of stabbings that broke out Sunday in Saskatchewan across an Indigenous community and a nearby town. 10 people were killed and 18 others hurt. The incident putting people on edge in a country where mass casualty events are a rarity.
I'm terrified to go to sleep at night. Terrified to open my door. They took innocent people's lives. They shattered this community.
Authorities have not identified a motive, saying some of the victims appear to have been targeted, others attacked at random. The leader of the Canadian First Nations group believes the attacks could be drug-related. Prime Minister Trudeau on Monday offering the Canadian government's support to the grieving communities.
We'll be there for each other. Be there for our neighbors, lean on each other, help grieve and help heal. We will continue to do that, and all Canadians will be with you in this difficult time.
U.S. border officials are also on alert, working with Canadian authorities to ensure that Sanderson does not flee south. Steve Rappaport, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A new era is about to begin in the United Kingdom. Tomorrow, Liz Truss will become the UK's new Prime Minister. Truss will also be the leader of the country's Conservative Party. After securing the win, Truss had a few comments for the man she's succeeding, Boris Johnson. She congratulated former Prime Minister Johnson for numerous actions, including the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine and standing up to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Johnson resigned from office in July after scandals hurt his administration. A federal judge has granted former President Donald Trump's request to appoint a special master in the FBI search of his Florida home. A special master is a third-party attorney from outside the government tasked with reviewing materials the agent seized last month. The former president's lawyers argue they did not trust the Department of Justice to keep privileged materials out of its ongoing criminal investigation.
They've been merrily along conducting their investigation with the agents, assuming all these documents were appropriate for the investigation. Now the judge is saying, hold everything, he may have executive privilege.
Federal prosecutors are discussing the next steps, which could include an appeal. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves says residents in Jackson have water again. Service was disrupted a week ago when a flood damaged a treatment facility. That left many people and businesses without enough water to even brush their teeth. Emergency efforts have helped restore at least some of that water.
We know that it is always possible that there will be more severe challenges. This system broke over several years, and it would be inaccurate to claim it is totally solved in the matter of less than a week.
Jackson residents are still under a boil water advisory. Officials cannot guarantee the water is safe enough to drink until they get 2 rounds of clear samples. That process won't begin until the middle of the week at the earliest. Back here in Utah, dozens of fish are washing up dead on shore, and the Division of Wildlife Resources says the heat has something to do with it. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser visited one of the reservoirs that has been hit the hardest.
It's a sweltering hot Labor Day. And what better way to cool off than taking the It'll Do out on the water?
It's not the boat I want, but it's the one I got.
Tom Thompson and his buddies stopped by the Lost Creek Reservoir for some evening fishing.
Just gonna do some fishing for the chubs, kind of get some bait fish for the rest of the year.
Those fishermen tell me they've noticed a stark difference in the water levels in just a matter of 2 weeks. Thompson says it dropped around 3.5 feet. Other visitors have noticed shrinking at the same rate.
There's an island over that way. You can't kind of see it from here. but it's now a peninsula because the water's shrunk down so much.
The Utah Division of Wildlife Resources says the heat wave and low water levels caused 80 Kokanee salmon to wash ashore dead.
It was shocking. It was shocking to see it that low.
DWR also noticed dozens of dead catfish in ponds in Farmington and Syracuse. This is because when hot weather warms up the water, it lowers the oxygen levels.
We haven't spent a lot of time at this lake, so not really familiar with it, but I mean, less fish is always a bad thing, right?
Hoping to see more snow, get more water here, so.
Reporting at the Lost Creek Reservoir, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Even if you do like to fish, it's you can't
So
eat
hot.
fish that wash up dead on shore.
Yeah, I mean, really, 104 a high here in Salt Lake City today. That is literally unheard of in the month of September, our hottest Labor Day ever here in Salt Lake City as our heat wave rolls on. In fact, it's going to get really hot through the middle of the week, and then we'll see a little bit of relief as we head into later in the week, into this upcoming weekend, but it'll still be hot here across the state, just not as unbearable. For tomorrow here along the Wasatch Front, morning drive, sunny. We've got dry roads for you for tomorrow morning and tomorrow night, and we're going to have a lot of heat again tomorrow afternoon. So the kids, as they walk home from school tomorrow, it'll be dangerously hot out there, and our UV index is very high, so make sure they're staying hydrated and bringing a hat and wearing some sunscreen if that's a possibility, to throw that in their backpack. Satellite and radar mostly clear here across Utah. Here's what I want you to know as we head into the overnight hours. It's still going to be warm when you wake up tomorrow morning, close to 70 here along the Wasatch Front. It'll drop into the 50s up in the mountains, but many of us tomorrow morning waking up about 65 to 75 degrees. So Salt Lake, 6 a.m., 73. By 10 a.m., we're already into the mid 80s. So we have that heat ramping up again tomorrow. For Tuesday at 7 a.m., 60s and 70s here across most of the state. That does include Provo at 63 tomorrow morning, 62 for Eagle Mountain, 72 for Twilla. 77 for St. George. And for the Wasatch Front into tomorrow afternoon, you're into the mid-90s at noon and then triple digits. Air quality orange, unhealthy for sensitive groups, with highs tomorrow here across the state around 95 to 105 for the Wasatch Front. St. George near 110. Chance of precipitation in St. George starts to go up later in the week through this weekend. So we're going to see potentially some isolated storms by Wednesday, Saturday, and then by Sunday, widely scattered storms are possible. Same thing on Monday. For Ogden, your chance of storms the next couple of days will start to go up on Monday with widely scattered storms. Beyond that, you're likely staying dry. And for Provo, chance of precipitation tomorrow isolated on Wednesday. And then by Monday, some widely scattered storms. St. George, 110. You are hot the next couple of days. 107 on Wednesday, 106 on Thursday. You'll see some relief this weekend into the low 90s. Yes, that is still hot, but it's about 20 degrees cooler than tomorrow. By Sunday, 91, mostly cloudy skies, so the cloud cover will help you feel a little bit cooler, a little more comfortable. For the Wasatch Front, we're around 105 for Tuesday and Wednesday, so the heat continues the next couple of days. Tomorrow will be just as hot as today, 105 on Wednesday. Now, just putting everything into perspective for you, mid to upper 80s is a typical high this time of year, and our all-time hottest temperature ever recorded here in Salt Lake City is 107, so we're not that far off of an all-time high. Today is 104 that we hit. That was the hottest temperature ever recorded in the month of September. We're right there again the next couple of days. And then we'll also cool down, but we're still in the low 90s for you as we head into this upcoming weekend. We'll talk more about our chance for rain here in Salt Lake City and our UV index and air quality coming up later in the hour.
Thanks, Allison. Straight ahead, a traveling Vietnam memorial wall is now in central Utah. We'll show you that and the events on tap for this week. And we'll explain these mysterious lights in the northern Utah sky early this morning. The traveling Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall was set up in Gunnison today. It'll be there this week for several events, including a full, half, and mini gut check, an F-35 flyover, and a car show. There will be family activities, food trucks, and booths. The event is put together by the nonprofit organization United We March.
Love to see this park filled full of Vietnam veterans, just to show that we love them, we care for them. We always have, and we will continue to. We love them. There's no greater human than those that went to an awful place, and they definitely need the respect.
The money raised will support law enforcement, veterans, first responders, and provide service to Utah's heroes. Did you see these lights in the sky early this morning? Look at that. A lot of people did, and they asked us what it was. Well, it turns out they were Starlink satellites. FindStarlink.com. FindStarlink.com shows the satellites passing over northern Utah at about 5:30 this morning. Get this, tomorrow at 5:50 a.m., they'll come over again if you want to get a look at them. The tracking site says look at the west to southeast sky, 5:50.
Burglars burst through the front of this South Salt Lake pawn shop, making off with several guns in the process. What that means for the business and the safety of the community.
One of the most famous chapters in the history of the American labor movement took place here in Utah. We're going to tell you all about it.
In the beautiful Uintas today, it's 70 degrees. That's a far cry from the Salt Lake Valley. We spoke with many who are trying to beat the heat. Coming up.
A South Salt Lake pawn shop was hit by burglars early Friday morning who stole a handful of guns and caused plenty of damage, as you can see. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with the shop owner about how the guns were taken in just a matter of minutes.
The front doors were totally removed from the front of the building and looked like a war scene a little bit.
This video shows the aftermath of a burglary at First Cash Pawn and Gun Store in South Salt Lake early Friday morning.
They would have had to have broken the glass and then wrapped around the frame of the door, also wrapping around the security bars also, and then hooked to this SUV and then backed up into our parking lot.
Store owner Troy Thompson says his security video from several cameras showed multiple people.
It looked like there was maybe as many as 6.
Making their way inside the store.
The rest of them kind of went this way and broke this case.
Stealing about $100 worth of jewelry.
This is the one they would have kicked in.
As well as 9 handguns from this showcase in just 3 minutes time.
They'd kind of identified the guns they wanted, and they were the smaller, maybe concealable type handguns.
Many of those guns similar to this Glock 43X. In all, Thompson says the guns taken total about $5,000 in value. He says he's reported the serial numbers of each gun to South Salt Lake Police and the ATF.
Those guns are now listed as stolen, and if someone is pulled over in possession of those guns, they do jail time. 10-year minimum on handgun or firearms related.
Now Thompson is hopeful police or even the public can help either identify the suspects or the car in the security video.
My biggest hope is that they can find one of those, one or all those stolen guns, and when they do, they find them with the people who were involved.
Well, on top of those guns being taken, Thompson says the cost to fix the damage outside of his store will be even more, estimating that it'll take several $1,000s to repair. I spoke with South Salt Lake Police. They say they're currently working with the ATF right now to locate those guns and make an arrest in this case. They're asking anyone with any information to call them at 801-840-4000. In South Salt Lake, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
2 suspects are at large, accused of stealing a car at gunpoint over the weekend. This is a photo of the suspect's own vehicle, that red vehicle there. The Davis County Sheriff's Office says the 2 men had arranged to buy the victim's car and told them to meet in a remote location near Hooper to make the sale. When the victims arrived last evening, the suspects held them at gunpoint and stole the car. The Sheriff's Office is reminding you, if you buy from or sell something to a stranger, meet at a public location. Many law enforcement agencies even have dedicated areas just for that. Salt Lake police are investigating a stabbing that may have started as a robbery. It happened yesterday near 960 West, North Temple. The victim was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. Police are trying to figure out whether the victim and suspect knew each other. A fire in Taylorsville is being blamed on an electrical problem with a hot tub. Fox 13 News viewers captured the flames and the massive plume of black smoke. Crews say the flames spread to the house's attic. Everyone got out safely. There was a bad crash on the Bonneville Salt Flats last night. A Tesla was going more than 100 miles an hour when it hit a berm. Wendover police say a family of 5 was in that car. They were all taken to the hospital, but are expected to survive. Police say the injuries would have been much worse if not for seatbelts and airbags. Well, today marked the end of Utah's 100 deadliest days of summer. That's the time from Memorial Day to Labor Day, when more people tend to die in traffic accidents. Data from Zero Fatalities shows there have been 203 deadly crashes in Utah so far this year, 220 people dying. 98 of those happened over the last 100 days. 77 people died in impaired driving crashes. Speeding was involved in 65 deaths, and 41 were pedestrians struck by vehicles. Fox 13 News is a partner with UDOT and the Utah Department of Public Safety to help end fatalities on Utah roads. To learn more about what you can do to keep yourself and your family safe, visit zerofatalietiesut.com. Well, busy holiday travel continues tomorrow. Salt Lake International Airport anticipates more than 25,000 passengers will depart from the airport tomorrow. We spoke with passengers flying today.
We didn't walk in the B gate, but the B gate's always such a long walk and it's always making me tired. So I absolutely hate it, like with every ounce of my body.
She's got good company. If you're traveling soon, allow plenty of time, especially if you've got that long walk to the B concourse ahead of you. You can also download the Salt Lake International Airport app to find your way through that big, beautiful new airport. Man, it was hot along the Wasatch Front today. Allison says it got up to 104 degrees at one point. And if you're one of those who headed to the mountains to escape the heat, you definitely were not alone. Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph was at Mirror Lake today, along with several hundred of his new best friends.
Water was great. Once your body gets numb, you don't really feel anything anymore, and it feels fantastic. This is way cooler.
For all Utahns of the 2- and 4-legged variety, it's certainly been hot. But for those at Mirror Lake in the Uintas, today was a high of a brisk 73 degrees.
It was super nice. It was a little muddy once you got out further, but...
For this family, the cooler temps weren't all they were looking for. Getting up into the cold mountain water was why they came up here.
A lot cooler. We're used to cold mountain lakes and wanting to escape the heat and the people.
But escaping people didn't quite work out.
Didn't quite escape the people. We found that out on the way in here with all the cars.
Parking lots full, roadways tight from cars on both sides, and all the way up Mirror Lake Highway, people pitched their tents to get a bit of relief.
You know, we usually come out here very often.
One putting his boat in,
not sink everything in the water,
was Sam Scaling.
This is nuts. Every pullout up the road has been just full. What do? I mean, it's like we were talking earlier, it's 75 degrees. The valley's 95 plus, so why not come up here today? This is a good little spot for kids. There's a couple little beaches. We brought her sand toys, so.
And he's hoping to catch a fish as big as the crowds.
Her little Barbie fishing pole, so hopefully we can get her on her first fish today.
Another looking for bites.
So they just really like the garlic. We used 12 worms.
Is Raphael's hunt.
So we just thought it would be a good time of year to come up.
And he too can't believe how busy it is.
I don't know. It's been a while since I've been up here, but this is pretty busy.
At least he had some luck.
So this morning we caught a tiger trout. That is pretty.
Netting this beauty before the crowd scared the fish away. So whether it's the cooler temps or the even cooler water or the lure of casting lines, Mirror Lake was pretty much the best way to escape the heat. but it came at a price.
Some snacks planned and, enjoy the weather.
Spencer Joseph.
Hopefully wait out some of the crowds. Hopefully they can all
Fox 13 News.
Start headed back.
Utah.
The summer driving season is coming to an end now, and that means relief at the pump. AAA reports today's national average was $3.79 a gallon. 2 months ago, it was more than $5 a gallon. Remember that? In Utah, the current average is $4.38 a gallon. Gas Buddy expects pump prices to continue to fall well after Labor Day. Analysts say some states could see prices average less than $3 a gallon. Wouldn't that be great? They do warn that that could change at any point, depending on hurricane season and any number of other factors. We want to help you find the cheapest gas. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you to our website with links to the cheapest gasoline stations in your area. Well, while everyone else celebrated Labor Day, Park City celebrated the 126th annual Miners' Day. The community's mining heritage dates way back to the 18th century. They started today with a parade down historic Main Street, preceded by the annual running of the balls. There they are right there. The Rotary Club also continued its annual contributions to local nonprofit causes. Fun time in Park City. Families enjoyed snow cones and classic cars at the 20th annual Union Labor Day picnic and car show in Magna. Representatives from several of Utah's unions were there to celebrate the work of union workers. There was plenty of food, booths, and of course, many classic cars that you could see and admire. Jeff Worthington with the AFL-CIO says he's happy to see a renewed interest in unions.
The younger people coming into their working careers right now are seeing the benefits of having union contracts that gives them that security to move forward with their lives.
Worthington also says the event is a time where many union members come together to connect with one another, from pipe fitters to electricians to steel workers.
Have you ever heard of Joe Hill, the labor activist and songwriter? Well, if you haven't, you should know about it. It's an important chapter in Utah's history.
I'm Andrea Urban. We've officially completed week 1 of the college football season. Hear from the head coaches from Aggies, Cougars, and the Utes on what changes heading into week 2. And don't worry, Ute fans, we won't relive the final play, but the Utes did show out in the swamp. Kyle Whittingham shares exactly what it is that they need to be better at moving forward.
One of the most famous, and some would say infamous, chapters in the history of America's labor movement took place here in Utah in 1915. Going in depth tonight, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth takes a look at the controversy surrounding the execution of Joe Hill.
Joseph Hillstrom went by the name Joe Hill. Born in Sweden, he came to America as a young man, and he traveled the country as a laborer, eventually becoming a union organizer. He was openly revolutionary, but he was executed in Utah for a crime that had nothing to do with politics, and there are strong arguments his execution was about politics. Joe Hill looked like the star he was in the labor movement. With his poet's grasp of his second language, laborers and their allies around the country knew his name and could sing his songs. He came to Utah to organize miners and mill workers, and his arrest on a murder charge in 1914 was news beyond Utah. Sitting in the state prison, now Sugar House Park, he wrote in his own defense this letter to the editor. The main and only fact worth considering, however, is this: I never killed Morrison and do not know a thing about it. And many Americans believed him. Police couldn't connect Hill to the murder victims, and the killers didn't steal anything. But many Utahns saw him as a dangerous man. The governor received urgent appeals in the mail, and the newspaper said some letters are lurid. Union leaders and death penalty opponents told Utah Governor William Spry about flimsy and wholly insufficient evidence, saying since there is a reasonable doubt, he should get clemency, and some saying simply he had nothing whatsoever whatever to do with the murder. The Swedish ambassador to the U.S. urged the governor to delay the execution, to permit a renewed and thorough examination of the case. And President Woodrow Wilson sent this telegram the day before the scheduled firing squad to respectfully ask if it would be possible to postpone the execution of Joseph Hillstrom. That worked, the governor saying at the president's request, a respite is hereby granted. But it was short-lived. A month and a half, the president tried again and got a scathing reply from Governor Spry saying, "We cannot again allow the course of justice to be interfered with." The governor was flooded with letters of praise, many from business leaders praising him for putting an end to the Hillstrom ordeal and for helping rid Utah of the lawless element. No reprieve coming. This news artwork detailed where everyone participating would be when the firing squad did their work. And Hill put pencil to paper on the eve of his death. A poem ending with, "My body, if I could choose, I would to ashes it reduce, and let the merry breezes blow my dust to where some flowers grow. Perhaps some fading flower then would come to life and bloom again. This is my last and final will. Good luck to all of you." Joe Hill died in front of the firing squad on November 19th, 1915. He was 36 years old. The home of his birth in Sweden is now a museum dedicated to his activism and his writing. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, transitioning into weather, it is still hot outside here along the Wasatch Front. Temps in Salt Lake City at 89 degrees, 87 in Ogden, and 82 degrees currently in Provo. Satellite and radar here across the state showing you mostly clear sky. So the main story over the next couple of days will continue to be the extreme heat. 10 p.m. around 80 to 85 for much of the Wasatch Front, and then into the overnight hours when you wake up Tuesday morning, it'll be about 65 to 75 degrees. And then our forecast at a glance for tomorrow for Salt Lake: temps 104 tomorrow, 101 for Ogden, 96 for Provo, and for central and southern Utah. St. George tomorrow 110, Richfield 98, Cedar City 96, and mostly sunny sky for your Tuesday. I know a lot of you had a long weekend, so it's kind of your Monday, but we're going to have just really hot temperatures the next couple of days. And then by the time that we get to the weekend, it'll be a little bit cooler, but still hot out there. So we're going to continue with the extreme heat. Moab 105 tomorrow, 98 in Price, 98 for the Uinta Basin, and our flash flood potential for tomorrow for those of you who don't have to go back to work and school. It's not expected, so you can get out and explore. I would just do so early in the day because we do have very hot temperatures again on tap for tomorrow. Over the next 7 days, our rain projection here across the state of Utah brings our best chances for rain into southwest Utah. The areas of green that you're seeing are less than half of an inch of rain, with a few areas down towards Zion potentially seeing more than half of an inch of rain over the course of the next week. So we will have some rain as a possibility the next several days, but really we're just going to keep up with the extreme heat. St. George 110 tomorrow, 107 on Wednesday, 106 on Thursday, 101 on Friday, and then by Sunday, mostly cloudy sky, low 90s. So we do have additional clouds, maybe some even thunderstorms for southwest Utah later in the weekend. Here along the Wasatch Front, 104 tomorrow, 105 on Wednesday, and for tomorrow and Wednesday, air quality will have mandatory action. So if you can work from home, that's going to be a good idea, with unhealthy for sensitive groups. By Thursday, 99. By Friday, 91 here in Salt Lake. So top weather headlines: extreme heat continues, air quality is unhealthy for sensitive groups, and our UV index is very high all week long. By Saturday, 93, and by Sunday, 93. Now we look at our temperature outlook for week 2. This is the 13th of September through the 19th of September, and that's going to keep us with above average temperatures here next week.
On Saturday night, the Utes fell in a heartbreaker to the University of Florida. The Swamp lived up to its reputation of being one of the hardest places to play in college football. But truth is the Utes showed strength and composure on the offensive side of the ball. According to head coach Kyle Whittingham, it's the run defense that they'll be focusing on this week.
If you watch the tape, our run defense was just abysmal. I mean, we gave up nearly 300 yards rushing. didn't gap control well, didn't take on blocks well, didn't do anything real, didn't tackle well. I mean, there's nothing we did of any redeeming value in the run defense, but we just got to get better across the board, you know, in the front seven. The front seven was just not what we're used to. It was sloppy. You know, this is a word I keep going back to because that's what it was. Sloppy technique-wise, sloppy fundamentally, sloppy tackling. We just were not in the right places at the right time. We missed 27 tackles was the count, which is way high for us. We're usually single digits.
Same state, same time, but different story Saturday for BYU. The Cougars led 28-0 after just one quarter against USF. Now, opening the season 1-0, this week they have a tougher matchup against future Big 12 foe Baylor. The Cougars are looking to redeem themselves after falling short to the Bears last season.
We're really excited about the opportunity to play against Baylor, and you know, we're familiar with them. Really, really good team, obviously ranked, and they're the standard for the Big 12. They're the champs, they're the conference champs, and we get to have them here in Provo. Really excited for that game, and excited to see how we match up from our game against them last year to now. Really impressed with what I've seen so far from them last year, even going into this week one. I think it'll be a good matchup for the RO line and our D line in the trenches. So they're the standard, they're the champs, and we want to see how we match up against them.
Credit to Utah State. The Aggies walked into the Lions' Den facing the Alabama Crimson Tide on Saturday, a program that has won 6 of the last 13 national championships. 55-0 the final, but head coach Blake Anderson says his guys matched the intensity.
The scoreboard doesn't, I think, reflect just how hard our guys did play. I'm not disappointed in our guys at all. They played hard. Our effort level was through the roof. They matched the intensity that was in the stadium, which is asking a lot. We didn't give up a sack. We didn't turn the ball over. We created a turnover. We did some good things, and that happened because guys did play hard, played 60 minutes, played twitchy, played violent where they could. At the end of the day, it's just a matchup problem for us. We just don't physically match up with that roster right now, and a lot of people are not going to.
I'm Andrea Urban, and that'll do it for your Labor Day sports. We'll be right back.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9. Quickcast is up next.